Okay, the first thing we're going to do with our fabric is, this is our lining fabric, and we're going to cut our 2 pull tabs out of it. So if you're using fat quarters, just make sure that you lay your pattern down and get your width. Make sure you have enough, and it looks like I'll have enough to go this way to cut this on the fold. So I'm going to cut my pull tabs out on this end. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and square my fabric to cut my pull tabs out. So we're going to cut it this way. This edge lined up as straight as possible. I just need a good straight line to use to cut my pull tabs, since this stuff is not square. Alright, that will square it off. And my pull tabs are, let's see, it looks like 2 1/4. I'll just use this to get my alignment mark. These don't have to be perfect, just make them square. So it looks like that will work. I'm going to double check to make sure I've got enough fabric left over once I'm finished to get my cut, and I will. So just double checking to make sure everything is still in the proper layout before I cut it. Tab number 1, set that aside. And there's our second pull tab. So we'll set those aside. There's a piece of scrap fabric that we have. Okay, next thing we're going to do is get our interfacing and get it cut, and we'll apply the interfacing. So let's do that, and after that we will cut the pattern out. So we'll get an interface first, and then we'll cut the pattern out, and then we'll get on with sewing it. The other thing you want to do too is, I've got a 22-inch zipper here, which is what I recommend. Get a good long one, it makes it easier to sew. You need to go ahead and iron it and get it nice and flat. So take it out of the packaging and get it ironed and flatten it out and set that aside, and we'll move on to the next steps. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is cut out our interfacing. Now we have 2 interfacings to cut out. One is the fusible fleece, and then the second one will be for the lining, and that's the 931 TD fusible middleweight. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut, this is on the fold, it's off the roll. So to get maximum use out of cutting on the fold, I'm going to go ahead and cut this to size for my width. So just a little bit of extra space. Okay, there's my fleece. set that aside. And this fabric is not as wide as the fleece is. So, let's see. Put it there and there. That won't give us enough. So I'm going to have to cut a long enough length. That right there should work. But again, ruler's underneath. Give myself a little bit extra here. And that will work for my lining. Okay, go ahead and set that aside now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our fusible fleece. Let's see, this is the lining. So I'm looking at my fabric. There doesn't seem to be a right side and a wrong side to it. So we'll take it over to the iron and we will fuse the interfacing on it, the whole thing, and then when we're finished with that, we'll bring it back over and we'll cut our pattern out on the fold using our pattern. That way we'll have full coverage of the interfacing on each side. So iron on your fusible fleece on your outside fabric, and then iron on your interfacing for the lining fabric, and then we will go forward with cutting it after that. So let me get this taken care of, and then we'll get on with cutting our fabric. Okay, we've got our fabric interface. So we have the fusible fleece on the exterior and the medium fashion weight interfacing on the lining. So now we're going to cut our fabric out. So we want to place it on the fold. So we will fold this side. Fold it to right sides together, so your interfacing will be on your cut side. Okay, you can see I've cut the interfacing pretty close to the size of the pattern here. So what I will do is get it lined up on my fold here on this side, and then I'm just going to cut a straight line all the way down this way on each side. And if you don't have a rotary cutter and mat, obviously use your scissors. What I would do is cut this interfacing a little bit larger and just draw your lines out, and then you can just cut around the lines. It'll make it a little bit easier for you. So do that side. Get that lined up as much as possible. Just trying to get my straight line over here so I can cut down this edge. Looks like it right there. You're cutting through the fleece, so it can be a little bit thick. Okay, I've got that cut. Now we need to cut these out. So what I will do is, I'm not going to bore you with this on camera. Tell you what, let me cut this edge, get this cut. But what we're going to do is just simply take a pencil, draw this out, and then, you know, get it. If you need to, you can pin the fold together to keep it straight. And we want to cut the little square out. So let me cut this edge, and now we're going to repeat the same thing on the lining. So again, just draw your little box there, cut that out, and do the same thing on the lining. And then we're going to sew our pull tabs together first. I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll get on with the assembly of the bag. So again, make sure your zipper is ironed, and get your pull tabs cut out first, which is what we did. Pull tabs out of the lining fabric, and then put your interfacing on everything, cut it all out, and then we'll get ready to start assembling it. So let me do this, get this finished up, and we'll get on with the pull tabs next. Okay, when you finish cutting everything out, you should have, this is the fold. So there's my lining, and you should have these inlays cut out. So again, all I did to cut out the inlays, I need to get my interfacing ironed down a little bit better. Anyway, so what I did was I put the pattern on here on the fold. I just took a pencil, drew around this way and this way, and then what I do to give me a straight edge is I come across like this and just cut close to the corner with my rotary cutter like this. I do the same here. This gives me a good even straight line, and then I come over here and I cut close to the corners, and then all I have to do with my scissors is come back and just barely clip. It gives me a good straight edge to go along, clip, and you end up with these pieces that just come right out. So anyway, it's fairly easy. So a pencil will draw on the fleece and leave the lines so you can see if you just need to cut it with your scissors. Okay, so we've got our lining, we have our pull tabs, and we have our exterior fabric, and I don't have the zipper here, but you have your zipper. So that's everything we need to get started with our sewing. So next we'll get started on the pull tabs. I'll show you how to take care of that. It'll be handy if you've got a pencil or something, a blunt object that will fit in a tube when we do the pull tabs. So try to find that, or even a skewer or something with you want to kind of grind down the tip so it's not too sharp. So get your inventory together on that stuff, and we'll get started.